All right, I think we're starting to get folks joining, so let's go ahead and get started with the agenda for today. First thing, permissionless signups. We are live as of yesterday morning, technically as of the night before, but nobody noticed that we were live for a few hours before we actually were. But the response has actually been pretty great. We've had a ton of signups. So when I wrote this last night, I said we have 500 signups with 25% from outside of Warpcast, but I had checked it just before this meeting, and we have something like 1,700 signups, with the majority of them coming from Flink or non-Warpcast clients. So it's actually really cool to see how Flink, just by virtue of existing and supporting a sign-up flow, has actually onboarded a ton more users to the network than Warpcast has through its in-app purchases, which is really awesome to see. I know Farquest also has a client that lets people sign up, though I think they're not reporting or they're not doing the signers correctly, so we're not seeing that in this data. But once they fix that, we should see people coming through them as well. But that's been really awesome. We also have a open source app and tutorial. You can click through this link and see a video that walks you through exactly how to do the registration. Well, X may be down. But if this works, it's on our YouTube channel as well. But you can see how you can end-to-end do a registration using a simple dApp. And there's actually code that shows you how to do each and every step. Registering RFID, getting storage, setting up a signer, getting your F name, and making your first cast. So you can end-to-end just go and do this and onboard fully outside of Warpcast today and get started on the network. High level, there's two things that I wanted to bring up. One is, what are we focused on next? So the number one thing that we're going to be thinking about is how do we grow the network with quality. So we're going to be spending a lot of time on Warpcast and how we actually bring people into the funnel, but also supporting clients like Flink and how can we make it even easier for them to onboard more and more users, and ensuring that things are portable between applications, and just making sure that people coming into the network can move freely between different applications. The second thing that we're focused on is improving the developer experience. So things around the replicator, things around running hubs, things around just ingesting and consuming data. We're going to make that as easy as possible. We've already made a bunch of progress, which we'll share in this meeting, and we're going to be focused more on that. But we also expect that since we're now open, there's a little more chaos in the mix, where we could suddenly see spikes of users, suddenly see people join the network, and so we're going to plan to be a little responsive and handle those things as they come up. Things that we're not as focused on as we were for the last 6 months. I think we've shipped features at the protocol level at a very, very rapid pace, and we're going to have a little bit more of a bias towards stability. So you'll probably see us slow down for the next month or two in shipping features while we make sure that things are stable and that users are actually able to onboard and use the network well. And then we'll kind of pick back up to our regular pace closer to the end of this year. We still do have some features that we're working on, just the rate of progress is going to be a little slower than what it's been for the last 6 months. All right, any questions on that before we start talking through the different items on the agenda? Okay, great. Let's do the first topic. And I think Shane is here. Shane, do you want to give a quick overview of all the work you've been doing on the replicator?
Sure. So very quickly, the old replicator was meant to be an example, right? It was never sort of seen as something that people should be using in production, but obviously people found it very useful, and that was a good signal to us. And so there were just a lot of bugs with it. We fixed those bugs and basically shipped it as a actual application in the Hub monorepo. And so that means that as we change things upstream with how hubs work, we should be able to get test failures in the replicator itself and actually bring the replicator along for the ride. So there's a nice, simple one-shot install script you can use, similar to how you would install a hub. And yeah, just would love feedback on this. Again, it's the initial offering, and so we've taken what we've learned from the previous example and the bugs and the issues that were open there, and hopefully people find this useful, but would really welcome feedback at this point in time. That's it.
Thanks, Shane. The ask for everybody is, if you have issues with it, please open tickets in GitHub, assign them to Shane or myself. We would love to hear feedback on things that are broken, things that you find annoying, and we'll continue improving this. And as Shane said, make sure that it's a well-supported part of the ecosystem. So thanks everyone who's already given feedback and support on this so far, particularly the Nanar team who've been really test driving this in prod. All right, next item, Sanjay to talk about Hubble 1.6 and just a few updates on that release and how that went.
Yeah, so we released 1.6 last week. Discovered some crash bugs. So released 2 point fixes. So if you're seeing crashes, please update to 1.6.2, and it should be stable. I haven't noticed any issues with that. I'm still working on fixing the underlying costs, and that should go out in like the next patch release. In addition to that, there's also we actually just merged support for submitting messages from other languages. Previously, there was an issue with protobuf encoding byte differences, which caused messages not to be accepted. So we figured out a workaround for that, and that's going to be supported in the next patch release as well. Also, finally, with regard to F names, in case you're not familiar, these are like off-chain centralized ENS names issued by Farcaster. So we've improved documentation on F names, which you can see in the link, and it covers like how to query like the existing names, how to create and delete names, and there's also like a full end-to-end example in the Hub monorepos of like how to register yourself on chain, acquire an F name, set that as your display name, set that as your username, and then create CAS. Yeah.
Cool. Greg had a comment. ENS team is happy to help with that. Greg, which part of this were you referring to?
Making them the off-chain names. I don't think the gateway and stuff have been deployed.
Yeah, that's right actually. So the final contract on mainnet is not yet live, and we should do that soon.
Yeah, we have that on our backlog to get that done. I think someone on the ENS team already did a quick review of this for us, so that was I think you hooked it up, Greg. So that was pretty useful. But it's just one of the more to-dos on our plate that we need to get done. Cool. And then the languages thing I think is a pretty big unlock. We've had this very annoying problem since the first version of Farcaster going live in April. So if anyone has been thinking about working on hub libraries in Rust, Python, or other languages, this is now significantly easier than it has been in the past. All right. Horsefax couldn't make it today, but there's 2 updates from him that I'll kind of go over really quickly. The first one is verified addresses or connected addresses in Warpcast. Until now, you could only connect EOAs, which means that if you had your address in MetaMask or another wallet, you could connect it just fine. But if you're using a safe or any other kind of wallet that supported, on-chain signature verification EIP, they would not work in Farcaster, and you would not be able to add them. And as of 1.6.1, we now support this in Hubble, and the protocol also supports this as well. So there's a quick demo that you can see here. I'll try to play this fast, and you can kind of see going through the wallet connect flow and being able to actually approve a safe end-to-end and getting the Gnosis safe added to Farcaster as an approved connected address. And the transaction is being made from the Frame wallet. Safe is now executing the transaction. And there you go. It showed up as a connected address in the Warpcast website on the left. So there's more details on how to do this here. If you have any feedback or questions, you can ping Horsefax, but you should now be able to just go through the regular flow, connect address in the web or in mobile, and just click through all the buttons, and it should just work out of the box. So Warpcast supports it, Farcaster supports it, and everything there should be fine. All right, next thing, this is going to be our focus going forward, is login with Farcaster. Horsefax has been focused on the verifications for contract wallets, so we haven't made a lot of progress since the last time we spoke about this. But as of today, we're going to start working on this. And the main goal is to give developers a way to auth that someone owns a Farcaster account if you want to use that to show their profile picture or other things. So this will not give you any kind of write access. It will just give you the ability to verify that a user is a particular person on Farcaster, and we'll specify a way in which clients can provide that support. We are going to think a little bit about how we want to name this. I think there's a variety of reasons why sign-in is a little confusing today. One is because it conflicts with the sign-in with Ethereum spec, which technically sign-in with Farcaster is just a wrapper around sign-in with Ethereum, but it's actually a little confusing and doesn't convey that from the name. And secondly, I think some developers have expressed that the terminology signers and sign-in with Farcaster is confusing because they both seem like they're doing the same thing. So we're going to change the names of some of these things to make it very clear what you're getting and what they actually let you do. That's it for now. If you're building a client and you want to be able to support sign in with Farcaster, that is, you want somebody who's using another app to be able to authenticate using your app that this person has Farcaster, reach out to Horsefax. We would love to work with you to get that supported in V1. Okay, that's it for Farcaster updates. Before we go and talk about Warpcast level features, let me pause and see if anyone has any questions about any of these topics.
I put a question in the chat, not about these specific topics, but could we get an open API spec for the Hubble REST APIs?
If you want to open a ticket, I'll flag it to Aditya. I'm not sure how much work is involved / how difficult it is to do, but we're happy to take a quick look at it.
Cool.
If it's also something that you feel compelled to just merge in yourself and you think it's like a fairly easy task, like you should feel free to make the PR. We'll generally be happy to support.
Yeah, in general, I just wanted alignment before we do this because if new APIs are added, then maintaining it would also be harder if it's just us doing it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think what would be super helpful is if you just open I think generally seems like a good idea. If you could just open a GitHub issue with the like, what would this would help you with, then I think Aditya can take a look at it and we can prioritize that.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to Warpcast level updates. We have one big update on passkeys, and I think Cassie's here and will walk us through that.
Hey everybody. So we added passkey support about 2 weeks ago now. It's only available for iOS 17 because there's a specific version of passkeys that we are leveraging. We're essentially using the WebAuthn extension for large blobs. Large blobs are basically, depends on the implementation, but ranges somewhere between 1K to 2K of data that the enclave that supports passkeys is able to store securely. The way that this works is that when you issue a passkey, you're actually issuing one kind of asymmetric key. It's usually P256, which obviously isn't useful for our circumstances. We use SEC P256K1. And so the seed phrase for that SEC P256K1 key is encrypted using a corresponding key that gets issued with every passkey when you ask for large blob support, called a large blob key, and it's just an encryption key. Large blob keys are secured the same way the P256 keys are. So if you have iCloud keychain, it lets you synchronize between all your devices. That synchronization loop is end-to-end encrypted, meaning Apple can't see any of the key data that they're syncing between devices. And one thing that we did discover after lunch was that certain providers that do support passkeys in general, like 1Password and Dashlane, unfortunately, Apple's APIs are not fully there. They kind of goofed and let passkeys providers say that they are available even when you specifically say you need this extension supported, and they have not given any ability for providers, external providers that is, to support that extension. So we are seeing an issue with people trying to use 1Password and Dashlane, that they get presented with the onboarding loop to use passkeys, they complete it, or at least they think they did, but then when they actually try to sign in again with it, there's no ability to do so because that passkey was not actually complete. We talked with the 1Password team about this. They're aware of the issue. They have an open issue with Apple to resolve and expand their API support. In the meantime, we have an update that does do an extra check loop that basically ensures that if somebody is using one of these external passkeys providers, that we verify that the storage of it is actually working the way that the API is saying it is, because we don't really find out until the very end. So with that confirmation, then we can move forward and actually present the user with the, hey, you've actually completed and you're ready to go, versus, no, you need to use a different passkeys provider.
Great, thanks for that update, Cassie. And so the thing that we're really excited about with passkeys and all the work that Cassie's been doing here is, one, I think this is going to be a very, very simple and secure experience for people to back up their recovery phrase. And from a security perspective, I think it's comparable to a lot of the other options that you'll be able to use. But from a simplicity perspective of being able to log in without having to like copy things out of one app and paste them in another app, it's sort of this magical experience where you open Warpcast, we ask Apple for the passkeys, and you just immediately see your accounts and you're able to log in. As Cassie said, right now, it's only going to work for a narrow set of users. So you have to be on iOS. And when you store your passkey, you have to store it with Apple. And specifically, you have to be on iOS 17. But soon, a couple of things are going to change. One is presumably Apple will fix the bug, and you can actually store this in 1Password or Dashlane or whatever password manager you want, so you're not restricted to iCloud. And two, Android is working on support for these APIs soon, particularly the large blob that we're using. And so we'll be able to bring this to everyone on Android 14 plus soon as well. And we're excited about shipping that soon. Any questions on passkeys before we get to the end of this call? All right, short and sweet today. Final thing, I wanted to call out shout outs. Thank you, everyone, particularly the folks to come to this call. Like, your feedback has been invaluable to getting this protocol to where it is, and all of your contributions, both in code and in feedback, have actually been extremely helpful. We're very excited to hit this milestone of getting permissionless, and there's a lot more work to get done. So we're going to get right back to it. All right. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now, same call.